Now, let's actually get going. So, welcome everybody to this PnP Weekly 111. Sorry, we went completely sideways before we started the recording.
Serious.
It is 25th of January 2021, and this is PnP Weekly, where we talk about the latest in the Microsoft 365 area in general. And my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a program manager in the OneTrash SharePoint engineering side, and focused a lot about the M365 ecosystem and community stuff. With me as a co-host is Cloud Advocate, Waldek. Who are you?
Hi everybody, my name is Waldek Mastykarz. I am Cloud Developer Advocate at Microsoft for Microsoft 365. And as Vesa didn't say anything today. Today we have a guest from Belgium, MVP, sticker guru, Lego addict,
sticker hater, clearly.
Stickerpreneur.
Stickerpreneur. Yes.
Stickerpreneur.
Elio Struyf.
I didn't spend it. Thank you very much. That was Stickerpreneur is actually coming from Louise, so she created that word, and I really like that word. So yeah, I love stickers, love Lego. So I'm Elio from Belgium, working as a Valo lead engineer or engineering lead at Valo. So that's what I do. Also like to blog, and actually Waldek already introduced me. So
okay, so all good. So let's close up. All done. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
So Elio has been actually in the PnP Weekly in the past as well, like 2 years ago or something like that. But
yeah, two times already, and now this is my third time. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, but there was a request of getting you on the show, so that's why we actually invited you. We're not going to tell who it was.
Yeah, because we don't really care, but because somebody asked, because somebody asked, we're going to invite.
We do care about it.
So good, Vesa.
And I still had to make up for my last recording, because then there was some road thingies going on, and my internet connection was always going down and up and down and up because they were working back then. Don't remember anymore?
No.
I have no idea what I did last week. So.
What? You don't watch your own episodes?
Nope. I mean,
I can't remember. That's
so why watch it, right?
I barely know discussion going.
I barely know what I'm expected to do today, so it's all good. So
it is a Monday, right?
I think it is. Yes, indeed.
Really?
Now, well, to be fair, related on that one, that doesn't mean a thing, because as an example, in Dubai, Monday is already the second working day of the week, and earlier today I was educated, but in China, there's multiple Saturdays and Sundays this month where everybody's working because of the holiday season. So you never know. It's not like we're in this global world. So
exactly, it doesn't mean anything. It's Sunday. So I would actually think, what if we rebuild the calendar in a way that every week in a day is called someday, and then we have March, like the whole year is just March.
Yeah. Well, we haven't really.
We had that already, like last year.
Yeah, 2020 March. I think everything was shut down, and we're still on this journey. So
still in March, like nothing has changed.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
And I just announced that there are multiple Saturdays and Sundays in this week, so it's already weekend.
So what are we doing here anyway?
Yeah,
I have no idea. That's just okay. So focus.
And cuts.
So the topic what we wanted to actually talk with Elio is something which we touched with Cameron Trier from Australia a while back as well. He like in Elio's case is a partner, creates solutions and capabilities and selling them for customers who are then using them in the context of Microsoft 365. And in Elio's case, you've been having this really awesome conference session, which you repeated a few times, which is great, because obviously it's not like when you deliver it once, everybody has seen it. Is that around the learnings related on building a product for Microsoft 365, right?
And there's a first thing I'd like to ask, because like over the course of years, like you've been doing two things, right? So you've built projects, and so you're on internet, like build bespoke things for a customer, and then you obviously, like over the last few years, built a product. Like, what is the main difference between building a product and working on a project?
Okay, fair point. I always start my session, and first of all, does everyone know still what is a conference? But that aside,
or a call, right?
So normally I always start my session with saying that I really love to build products. And the reason is the biggest difference with what I did in the past, because I only did two things. So I created a product and I worked on products. But when I was a consultant, you create smaller pieces of your product and then you deliver it to your customers. So you just deliver a project and you deliver it and that's it. And then you will never see that project again. And that's where I found it very difficult to, let's say, not say detach, but hand over a really interesting project. And at the end of a project, sometimes you say, hey, if we have 10 more days, we can do this and this and this and this, and we can build on top of it. But that will never happen. And sometimes, if you're lucky, after a year, they will call you back and they will ask, hey, we still need to have these kind of features in it. Are you available to implement that? And that's fun, but sometimes it isn't, because then you see that other people have worked on it and with a total different mindset, and yeah, things don't work as expected anymore. But when you're going to really build products, you can start from an idea, from scratch, build it, and see it as the same product that you were building before, but then there is no stop anymore. You just continue investing your energy in making that thing better and better and better. And that's what I love about building a product. It's like you can just continue making it better and never have to detach from or give it away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also you get a lot more feedback because hopefully more people are using it.
Absolutely. Now, sorry about it. Before because I wanted to actually have this, just to give context for the people, can you briefly explain what kind of products Valo is actually building and what you have built in the past? What kind of technologies and how big things have been built?
Very good. So Valo is very popular for its intranet, but we are so much more than an intranet these days. So we started as Valo Intranet. Now we are in Canada, we are using Valo Solutions, and in Australia as well. So intranet is one of the main pillars, but besides that, we also have Teamwork, which is a Teams management system. Like everyone works in Teams and has so many groups and sites. So we allow you to archive these sites, manage the life cycle of these teams, basically. Then we have some ideation management. If you have an idea and you want to pitch it to your team, then we have an ideas tool. Very, very neat. One of the, I would say one of the nicest things that we have built, because it touches on the latest and greatest things like a bot, Teams integration, message extensions, and so on. And then we also have Connect, which is our glue of making all the products come together, but also being able for you to extend the experience inside Teams. So what is it? It's creating some kind of a dashboard where you can show all the news from your intranet, but also from your own things like from SharePoint and so on. So it doesn't need to have a connection to any of our products. You can add your own products as well, and that's very neatly integrated with SharePoint framework and so on. So we have quite a wide range of products that all focus on collaboration, the modern workspace, and so on.
Yeah. How's the technology? What are you using as a technology behind the scenes? How are these being built?
Yeah. So provisioning-wise, we are currently still using PowerShell, and we have the PowerShell guru from PnP in our team. But he converted over to the C# world with .NET Core as well. So don't say that. But we use .NET Core. We use TypeScript for everything what is running front end. All our Azure functions are running on C#. Basically, when I started in the beginning, I did everything in TypeScript because I just love TypeScript. I love Node. But the more and more people were coming to the team, they were all more familiar with running in C# way. And I was the only one that was really using a Mac. That was also the reason why I was using TypeScript, and they were all running on Windows. So we made the decision, okay, I can keep TypeScript on the front end. They can get C# on the back end. So now with .NET Core, it doesn't really matter anymore. Back then, I was still using a VM when I had to do some changes. Now it doesn't matter. So there is some things that are still on .NET Framework because we're now in the migration process. But our stack is quite modern, I would say. There's no old technologies that are keeping us or that says, oh boy, this is a very boring or this is very old school. So all the latest and greatest. So that's why our developers really love to work on our stack as well.
Yeah. And when you build the product or the way it's built, when you deploy it to customer, like does it run in their data centers or their subscriptions, or does it run? Is it a SaaS app that you run and operate?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. That's where we distinguish from many other companies. Valo was always with the mindset like you run it in your own environment, so we don't have anything. Comes with a lot of complexity as well, so sometimes it bites us back because of things changing on the Microsoft space or bugs that need to be fixed. It's not as fast as within a SaaS product, but the stability is on the client's end. So if we go down, it's not that they go down because we have nothing to do with that. So that's also a good thing. Also for security reasons, it's all in their environment, so it stays in their power. So that's where we distinguish ourselves. We're thinking about SaaS because SaaS is one of the ways to go. Will that be the future? We don't know yet, but one of the things that we are currently starting is adding our own CDN to the game, because we see that more and more changes are happening on the SharePoint side of things, on more on the client side of things. So we want to be able to react a little bit faster. So that's why we are creating our own CDN offering there as well.
Yeah. So from a customer perspective, that's actually really interesting. So you're an ISV provider, but you provide your system like an SI, right? Yeah. Is that the right way of doing that? How are customers actually taking this? Are they like happy with this approach, or they're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense? Because obviously there is the compliance and legal positivity on this one, because you don't then own you don't have access on their content, right?
Mm-hmm. I think for some clients, it doesn't really matter where it's owned or where it runs. It just needs to run. Yeah. Others are really carefully thinking about it, like German customers. They like to know where all their data is and all their stuff is running. So if most of them were all running on-prem, now they are more and more running on Office 365 or Microsoft 365. So for them, it's already a step from on-prem to the cloud, and then going full SaaS, it's something that is still blocking them. So if they select us, some of them select us because then they know, oh, it's running in my Azure tenant, so Valo doesn't have anything to do with it. But as I said, some others won't care where it's running as long as it's running.
Yeah. And do they also have, or do you see that, is that a challenge that they lack the expertise to run and operate things on Azure, right? Because like it's just not enough to, let's say, deploy it, enable it, and forget it, right? Because like there is maintenance, there is update patching, scaling, and so on. Like you need to have something to monitor that. So is that something you help them with, or do they do it like everything by themselves in their own teams?
again, that's where we are a bit different. We work with a partner network, and it's our partners that do these kind of things. Okay. Like an intranet, the reason also is an intranet is something you don't just roll out. You can do that, but then, yeah, there's an intranet, and then you come to the office on a Monday, and you launch with an email or whatever, and you say, hey, there's a new intranet, and nobody will actually use it. Yeah. But we rely on partners because partners know their clients the best, and they will go and do a couple of workshops together with them in order to figure out what kind of information architecture that needs to be created. And then they create that, and then they roll out the intranet with Valo. And then there is that whole provisioning story that Erwin, for instance, is part of. That magically happens so that the sites appear, content types are created, and so on and so on. But then it's their intranet because they have their full site hierarchy created, and that's something we cannot do. We can, for instance, say, okay, we will create a SaaS offering, and then you will have a site, but as long as you don't know how the site is going to look like, it's just a blank space that doesn't add any functionality or any value to your company.
Yeah. So how would you characterize the differences or the value what the Microsoft 365 brings to the table? Why is Valo chose to use? Well, obviously, I don't know if you influence this decision or not. Well, technically I know, but anyway. Choose to use and build stuff on top of the Microsoft 365 rather than building its completely own product, which kind of connects to the Microsoft 365 or the services using API. So what's the added value on using the platform, and what works and what doesn't?
That's also part of my talk. I like to have it like in a marriage. So that you use the best of both. But also a marriage has some thorns. So there are some problems as well in marriages, and sometimes it helps to talk. But it's not always that easy to talk with Microsoft about some certain things because they will never change their mind. So most of the time it's us changing our minds or strategies or approaches. But the reason why we built on top of Microsoft or, for instance, inside SharePoint is because there's already a lot of things that we can leverage there, and we can start extending or maybe providing added value on what there is. So we don't have to create our own platform. We don't have to create a security mechanism, pages, and so on. A system that adds widgets or web parts to a page. That's all there already. So we have to add our own value to it.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose it. And that's why, that's how we roll with SharePoint.
But
so
but what are those thorns? What is the challenges then on doing this? So example cases. Let's not go too crazy, but
okay. Let's take something that hasn't
issue 2955.
Let's go to an issue that's really I'm going to use the F word. So F upped our product team on the intranet side, and that was when the engineering team of SharePoint decided to remove all the classes from sections and creating new classes which were unique. So they were V underscore and then a unique number or something like that. I don't know it anymore. But before that, you had classes that specified in what kind of sections you were running, because you need to know, or your web parts need to know in what kind of the section is that
is it positioned or the size?
Yeah, indeed. So that you can actually display it a little bit different, like if you're in a full width or if you're in a 2x1 section and so on, or 2x3 section. And all of a sudden that was gone. So all of a sudden our web parts thought that they were all working in a full width space, so everything started failing, but also other products started failing. Even a product from Microsoft started failing as well. And then we had to do fixes. So it was on a Thursday or a Friday. So our team worked on Saturday and Sunday to get a fix in place. I contacted you as well, Vesa. So you pointed me to the right people to share my love with the team at that point. Maybe there wasn't a lot of love involved, but okay. Let's say that was. Yes. Yeah. And then the team took over. It took a week, and then they decided, okay, let's do a rollback. And the rollback wasn't a complete rollback, so it was not the same as how it was before, because there were already changes applied to their code base, so they couldn't simply just turn it around. Okay, we had to do another fix. But it's these kind of things, like we built on top of a platform that we don't own. And that's always the thing of, you don't have full control over that thing. So if you don't have full control, you need to find ways in order to get full control, or to make it much easier to gain and to know what is actually going on. Like UI testing is a very important thing, and UI testing on even the SharePoint related things. Something that also occurred was that all of a sudden the modifications of web parts changed. And that's something we saw in our UI test before. You had to modify a page and then click on the web part, and then it became available, or the edit menu became available. So that was actually in our testing. And all of a sudden our testing started failing because the on-click was not there anymore, but it became a hover effect. And it works a bit different because the UI test just says click and then it wasn't there. So we needed to do an on-hover. And these kind of things, they really help us to know what is going on in our environments. But of course, we don't have 100 environments like Microsoft where they can test upon. So sometimes partners will tell us, hey, this is now failing.
So that brings us to an interesting point, right? Because like to abstract or to put things into perspective, I think like the whole need, like for you to be able to rely on something that is backwards compatible, like that is a key thing, because as you said, you're building on a platform, so that's a layer upon which you need to build, and it cannot just change every day. And I guess like there is a difference when you build SaaS, where you're basically in control and there's nothing else on it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not really externally hosted, but more like, imagine that you build a product that is SaaS, and it's just that, right? There is nothing there is nothing else on the page, right? So you fully control, and you can change that as you please. And then the other side of it, where you basically build an API on which people build, right? And I think there is the balance where, like Valo Intranet, that is a product, like, there's nothing extending that, right? There is nothing changed or relying on your UI. Whereas SharePoint is actually there is.
Oh yeah, partners relying on our things, because we also have an extensibility framework.
There you go, right? So in other words, like you know the two sides of the coin. Like you're building a product in which you want to iterate quickly, be agile, respond to market needs, and request fast. But then on the other hand, you cannot break partners. And I guess that's the same thing that applies to 365 as a whole. There is a need to iterate quickly, ship new features, and like keep moving. But then on the other hand, you need to keep in mind that, or we need to keep in mind that there are partners who build apps that rely on these contracts, and we cannot just like yank them out because we shipped a new thing.
Yeah, and in general, obviously, all of this comes back on communications, and Microsoft should be, well, we need to improve our communications towards partner ecosystem, and so and making sure that people are aware of the extensibility points and how can be done, and also addressing if there's any needs which people need to do hacks on, as an example, then we need to go back and revisit those decisions and basically hopefully enable partners to do those in a nicer way. Now, but yeah, so certainly an area where we need to further improve in general. What about in general? What are the other things, what you learned, what's in your kind of a conference talk related on building a product on the Microsoft 365? What works and what doesn't?
Oh, it changes each and every time. So each and every time that I did it, there's things going out and there's new things coming in. One thing that we are now doing, as I was saying, the CDN part of it. So we want to be able to make it easier for partners and for our clients to get updates a lot quicker. So we are now thinking about our own CDN. Now, we already have it in place. We released it with one of our products last year. And one of the things there was, okay, let's go with Azure CDN and let's go for a cost estimation and do it with that one new product. And we were running with that one new product, and we have now a fairly good idea of what the cost estimation will be. And then we said, okay, now that this is working, let's do it for another product as well, for Intranet. And Intranet is our biggest code base. It comes with a lot of files. And if we calculated that, it was around 5,000 euros per month. And we were like, okay, this is quite much. So that's where we had to come up with another plan. So now we are using Cloudflare, for instance, because they give you for 200 euros per month, they give you unmetered traffic, which is very important. So Azure CDN is good, but it works completely different based on the amount of traffic that you have compared to Cloudflare. These kind of things, we couldn't take that one into account before we started, or it's hard. And then sometimes the Azure calculator works pretty neat, and then it's most of the time it's in your benefit, because it's going to be high and it's always going to end up a little bit lower. But in this case, whatever number we were giving in, it was always high. So it's not that this 5,000 euros will magically be 80% less. So it can maybe be 20% less, but still then you pay quite a lot of money. Another thing is, if you're building on top of a platform that you don't own, you also don't know how people are building products or using your products and how they are configuring your sites. And there was one interesting case that we had running for, I think, for 4 to 6 months, where all the sites in that environment got Valofied. They name it Valofied. We actually don't have a service like that. We have a script that you can Valofy the sites, but there isn't anything like that. And normally what we do is you create a new site that is connected to a hub, and then the site design gets applied, and it will Valofy that site. And what they had was each and every site was Valofied. So of course, they did a support call to us, and we said, yeah, but there isn't anything like that. So let's do an investigation. There was no services running on their end that did that. So they opened a support case at Microsoft, and then it took 4 months, I think, in order to finally figure out what was going wrong. And that was on the content site hub. A person enabled the custom action.
Content type replication. Yeah.
And every time the site was created, the content types were being published. So, but also the custom action. And because the custom action was enabled there. And that's something nobody knew and we couldn't figure out. And the same thing in the ULS logs, they didn't find anything. And when we removed everything from the tenant, it was working as expected. But the moment we activated everything again, everything was back. So that's
because
why support was pointing to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it was, these kind of things are, if you're running completely besides SharePoint or besides Microsoft 365, you won't even notice these things. But it's very challenging, and it's also nice that we found it. But there are things that you cannot know
anticipate.
Or cannot anticipate because it's not something you own and not something you know how it was configured. So
Now coming up on, and I do apologize. I'm talking. I'm going to go for a refill. I'll be back in a second. So I'm starting to do this.
That is a new hype. Yes, exactly. Since still messages leaves Bill a call.
So
let's do the same. So bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we will just leave. We'll just stand like here.
Okay. But now, Elio, from your side, you have a lot of experience related on building things for SPFX and building for teams and building different Microsoft 365 things already, and using the Graph API and all of that. What would be the kind of a 3 to 5 things where Microsoft should improve from your perspective?
Where Microsoft should...
Only 3. You can pick only 3.
Okay. And which at the same time is kind of what is good for partners to be aware. So areas of improvement. Or everything is just working amazingly well, and API surface is just absolutely out of this world, and nothing.
Let him talk.
No, communication is one of these things. Communication and knowing what is actually being released at what point in time. That's one of the things that is, one of the most critical things, I think, when you're building a product. A lot is coming from the roadmap. But there are also things that are not on the roadmap, like, for instance, these classes. That was not announced on the roadmap because the team thought, hey, this has no effect to any products or ISVs.
Yeah.
But this should be there somewhere as well. Also, an environment that you can use to test these things would be nice, because that's also something you don't have. You can have first release, but first release is not the same as first release for specific users and without first release. And sometimes you even see updates coming into non-first release tenants first, and then it's weird. So we have 2 handfuls of tenants that we use on a daily basis that are all running in different modes, and still it's sometimes the partners' tenants are being updated before any of our tenants. So these things are really important. Sometimes speed is too quick, or that updates are coming in too fast from Microsoft.
What?
But also
that's a first. Like people said, it's like guys, you ship too little. You should increase frequency. Now we didn't like no. You ship too fast. Slow down.
It's mostly happening on the SharePoint side of things, when you finally did a change, and then the moment you created something for it or made it available that everything is working again, all of a sudden there's another change which affects your release. And for some reason, every time when we do a release, during that week we have a code freeze, and during that week...
And we don't.
During that week, all of a sudden there's new features coming in that always break our stuff.
Yeah.
So
okay, we will align. We will align our code.
So next time when there's a code freeze, I will call Vesa and says, "Hey, no changes this week, man." But for instance, also the Microsoft Graph is great. We love Microsoft Graph, but sometimes we are still missing features. So then the only way to do it is via user voice and saying, hey, this is something I would like, or we're missing this kind of a property. Can you have that? As I said, it's great, Microsoft Graph, but you have to do so many calls in order to get one thing for, one simple thing to require 5 different calls sometimes.
So in other words, you would like to see more scenario-oriented APIs as opposed to just being CRUD APIs for the data stored in the service.
But also a way to have sometimes a bit more information. Like one typical example is we wanted to do a roll-up of all the applications you have in Microsoft Teams. Mm-hmm. But a personal app, the idea of a personal app is not exposed via the API, because that's in a manifest, and you don't get that manifest. But if it's not your app, you don't know what the idea is, so you cannot do a roll-up. You can know that the app is there, but you cannot call that app because you don't have the idea of the personal tab. And these things are, you can log them or you can ask for them, but probably it will not be there. So you need to find a workaround, or you just need to say, okay, for now it was a nice idea, but we have to let that thing go.
Yeah.
So that's also part of the thing, because you don't own it. You just have to live with what is there, and you need to try to make the best of it.
Yeah. And to what extent do you feel like being a partner, and especially a partner of your size, standing in the market, experience and whatnot, to what extent do you feel you're empowered to influence decisions and product directions, and you feel that feedback you give is being acted upon?
That's fairly good, because we are involved in quite a lot of meetings. I think our communications on that side of things already got a lot better. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago at Ignite, when we were still meeting face to face, that we were actually with Jeff.
Without masks?
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. And without any transparent
screens,
screens before us, and so on. No, we were in a meeting with Jeff and trying to pitch a modern Valo Intranet on modern SharePoint, because SharePoint was just going to the modern stack, and we were showcasing that and so on. And then Jeff said, "Okay, it seems like you have a great product, and this can help us achieve a lot more." So that's how we got involved in a couple of meetings, and same for other partners as well. So we have now meetings with the team in order to get some knowledge about what is coming and so on. So we can anticipate on some things, but not always everything. So,
and that's actually one thing what we haven't mentioned that much in these community goals and these discussions, is that one of the benefit of being active in the community is getting the MVP status. And when you get the MVP status, you actually get reach and direct channels directly with PG and engineering. So one of the main advantages for companies to get involved in the community work is to get somebody in the company to MVP status, and then getting direct access on Microsoft engineering. And I don't think I'm overselling this, or am I? Because I think that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Well, so the official message is that being an MVP is a personal thing, not a company thing. So being an MVP, you cannot share everything. You can say, like, I cannot tell you why, but if I were you, we should go that way.
But you will be reached out, your company will be reached out for dev kitchens and all of that stuff, and through the MVP connection. So,
well, I think it is two ways, and I think like there is benefit to being there as a person, but also as a company. You can do so much more, right? Like you can take part at events, you can sponsor things. Now in open source, if there is something you use, sponsor that, because at the end of the day, these are people who spend often their personal time to build the things that you use for profit. So that's like directly how you can help drive products, drive ideas, and help everyone, including you, right? So even as a company, you can do way more today, especially.
Absolutely.
But supporting what I wanted to say was supporting your employees into getting involved with open source related stuff is already beneficial.
Because then you get those connections, and then people listen, and then you get invited on the NDA dev kitchens and all of that stuff. So all of that has a massive value of getting visibility on things. So, but let's do some articles. Good discussion.
Speaking
community
of which,
related on community.
Community, what?
Yeah,
nobody told me that.
Waldek, you can explain what is a donkey bridge.
Also, you want me to? Yeah, so it is a Finnish literal translation of Segway.
And apparently you were saying that that's the same with Dutch.
Yes, correct. Yes, it is literally the same word in Dutch, correct.
Yeah, which is actually interesting that it has exactly the same translation in anyway.
Someone in the past talked to somebody.
Yeah,
Dutch
clearly.
Were all over the place.
You mean communicating with people? That's just crazy.
Something Finns never do.
Exactly. So
some say.
Now, a few articles. First from the Microsoft side. So in the Teams block, notifications from Yammer communities are now available in Microsoft Teams. We've been having this actually internally in Microsoft, and this is actually great. So one of the it's just simple examples. In my case, is that I've been trying to figure out how do I do my lunch thingies properly. Now we've been working remotely from home for many years, but now through this notifications in Teams, I realized that actually our restaurant, which used to be at the office in 15 kilometers away where I live, actually do home deliveries. And so now I can
finally, after all these years, exactly. Or is it just now new because nobody is in the office?
No, well, that's pretty new because nobody is in the office. But again, okay. These notifications are actually really good for those things where you are in Yammer. And actually, for me, the Yammer and Teams integration makes more and more sense when you see it live happening, and the Yammer being the community discussion side of the house. And then the Teams is more a smaller group of people anyway. So yeah. There is certainly a value on the setup, but not necessarily for super small companies, but certain sized companies, this makes perfect sense. And it's good to see those notifications in the Teams as well. Which, by the way, we'll have a great demo using Graph on how to make these notifications happen this week in SPFX community call coming up by Luis Manes from come on, company. Where's Luis Manes working? Sorry, Luis. Anyway. So that's coming on Thursday. So other blog posts, 7 tips for safe online meetings and collaboration with Microsoft Teams. So good notifications from Microsoft Teams team related on tips on using the Microsoft Teams tooling and with the videos and explaining how things are actually working. So really cool stuff as well. And relatively small videos. And one thing what I love is, or really like, is that these are super smart to the point and 45 seconds. Which is precisely what people need to have. Yeah. I want to have details related on X and Y and Z, and there's a small video which is then sparking the intention, and then, okay, now I can investigate more and go to the docs. So seeing things live. This one is good on the SharePoint community blog site, on SharePoint blog site for Mark Cashman, a Inside Zone podcast with Chris and Mark. I think it's Chris and Christopher and Marisa, or Mark is there as well. So having a discussion related on making risk less risky. So when you store your data in Microsoft Cloud, achieving compliance becomes shared responsibility between you and Microsoft. So good point for Martina, for sure. Good discussion as well. And then guides and tools to design Microsoft Teams app efficiently. This was really cool. Cool announcement related on Microsoft Teams UI toolkit, where you can actually then design how the application should look like. And then there is actually a Microsoft Teams UI library, which for now, I think it's relatively early still because it's still using not GA or 0.5 versions of things. So it might be slightly risky. Again, I don't know the future backward compatibility, supportability on this, so I can't comment too much. But there are new controls available for people to take advantage, which is really cool as well.
Yeah, and these were already available in the PnP controls.
Then some of these controls are also available in the PnP SPFX controls package, which is true as well. We'll demo those in upcoming calls as well, so yeah. Which is really cool. And those controls have a different life cycle than these controls, and so those controls have a future-proven way of doing things, unless I'm completely mistaken. Because Elio, you're leading that effort as well.
Yes, indeed, and we are already using these controls as well, because you pointed that library out to us when there wasn't an npm package, so that's why we ported them over to the PnP controls.
So the one thing I wanted to ask about, like, is there a difference the way they look? Because if you look at, like, there are subtle differences in the UX of Teams and SharePoint. So I would exactly. Right. So today, as we record this, January 25th, 2021.
Yep.
Right. Yes.
Which year is it? So.
Exactly. Right. So there are differences between the way products look like. And does that also mean that the control toolkits we get, like, for example, this one for Teams is optimized to align with Teams, whereas the one you, Elio, lead is more on the SPFX side of things and SharePoint, so that it feels and looks basically the way SharePoint looks like?
Yeah, but SharePoint and Teams are coming closer together. So some of these controls that are there, like the dashboard, is something you probably don't need in SharePoint, but need in Teams.
Correct.
Because dashboard, that's page layouts or your page structure with sections and so on. But maybe you also want that on the SharePoint side of things, depending on where you want to use your SharePoint apps or SharePoint functionalities. So for now, they are there so that you can actually benefit from it inside SharePoint and inside Teams. But I saw that more and more for us, we are using that inside Teams, but we also use these SharePoint components inside Teams, like a people picker and so on. So yes, they need to be styled maybe a little bit different, but
for now. So the long-term objective absolutely is to get all of the UX layers in M365 to use the exact same design language and the look and feel. Now, when it's a journey, so so it will take a while.
Some say that it's a different team as well.
Well, no, partly yes, absolutely. Leadership is still the same. So things are getting more and more aligned every single week, which is
good, really which is great. Like, because at the end of the day, the interesting part is that it's the same people who work with 365 all up, right? It's the same people who use Teams, use SharePoint, Yammer, everything else that has UI surface.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense to give them the same experience. Exactly.
It's the same ISVs. So having a consistency. Absolutely.
It's prerequisite. Absolutely.
Yes. And one of the things which we as a Microsoft will certainly need to learn is that it's our internal organizational structure should not have impact in the external messaging and external guidance, because the fact that people are working in a different orgs inside of Microsoft, well, customers don't care, partners don't care. They just want to have the guidance, the official guidance and official tooling, and then let's get them to do the things. So we need to do better on that. So we're not doing silos, rather work together as a cross Microsoft, as a one Microsoft to provide this guidance as well. Anyway, so really cool stuff in here. This one is really cool as well from the Microsoft 365 blog in the tech community from Mark Cashman related on Microsoft List app for iOS. Somebody immediately reacted on Twitter, what about Android? But of course, that's coming as well. So absolutely. But right now, this news was around iOS. And then there's a nice demo related on how things actually work as well, and how you can actually build these things. Now, there is plans and there's a direction and discussions and all of that to actually have some of this stuff available in the consumer side as well, which is really, really cool. Because creating these lists, not SharePoint lists, creating these lists, Microsoft lists, is a really, really easy way of tracking things, adding notes, creating lists of things. So again, is it a competing thing comparing to the to-do? No, that this is not necessarily intended to be for tasks. It's for many other things as well. But again, there are similarities and overlaps. But the usage of the teams is actually growing significantly all the time, which is really, really cool. And more, there's even a interesting partner extensibility discussions ongoing in general. So hopefully we'll get all of that in place. So
cool.
Now, some news this week. There's a Power of Cloud Microsoft 365 Cloud Power User Virtual Conference. That is a really big conference name, but this is happening online. So a good conference and remote conference for sure. Susan Hanley, they're talking about the infrastructure, probably modern SharePoint intranets, information architecture.
Antonio Mayo, Nuris Kamis, so basically all the well-known people. Yes,
Sarah Haas, really good stuff, and a lot of great content available for people to take advantage. And I think this is free as well. So really cool stuff. The other thing what's happening this week is Call-Up Days Birmingham 2021. And a lot of people and speakers here as well. So a lot of familiar faces across the world from US, Canada, Europe, and all of that. So
that is the one cool thing about all events being virtual is that people from all over the world can join. It's no longer a local thing, regional thing. No, it's for everybody. Like everybody can join, everybody can present. So it's really great for like even folks to learn, right? Because the one thing that stays local is the time zone, but everything else, the content is adjusted to or basically globally covered, right? So you can learn basically from the folks whom you already know and follow.
Yep, absolutely. So really cool stuff.
there's still an issue with all these events. It's indeed great that there are so many events, but the biggest problem is these events, there are
so many events.
Yeah, and they're all done on people's time. We all do it for free, and yeah, these events still cost money, and finding sponsors is not always the easiest because there's too many options. Plus, also the sponsor doesn't get the same thing out of it as what they have in real life.
Yep.
Like they cannot really sell their product. Yes, of course. Like for instance, you see the Platinum sponsor session here, and hopefully there will be people in there, but you need to attract these people with a giveaway or something. But if you don't do these kind of initiatives, then people will just come in whenever they think, oh, this is some session that I want to see, and then they go away, and then maybe in the afternoon they will come in again. As we with BWIG and DWIG, we did the collab days in Belgium, we actually saw how people were coming in and going away. So people don't stay the whole day.
Yeah, I think we're still very much looking for format, like what is the virtual format for an event? Because like very much we took what we had and knew, projected that to online, and we kind of learned that, well, it doesn't really work because maybe things are too long. Maybe it's too long to try to keep people behind a screen for an hour. Maybe again, as you said, like how do we bring value to sponsors, right? So there are many different things that we need to rethink for this to work. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's just inevitable. That's the future. We need to figure it out. I don't think we'll never get to the mode where we will have every single week a physical conferences happening across the world. Who knows? We'll see. Hey, who knows?
Most likely it will be hybrid.
Yeah. Yes. And whatever that means. Again, good question. Now, let's go to the other article. João Ferreira, format the image column with the preview of Microsoft Lists and SharePoint. Microsoft Lists more and more functionalities related on that one. And there's a really nice, the JSON way of defining these things. Well, not necessarily super intuitive from an end user perspective, but you can do extensibility, you can do things and provide, for example, preview of the picture, or preview of the file, which is really cool.
We could summarize it as a powerful low-code way of adjusting UI.
Yes, absolutely. Really good way of defining that. Now, this one's really good from Leon Armstrong, testing out the new Power Automate flow commands in PnP PowerShell plus PonoScript, export all flows using PnP PowerShell. I think last week we talked about exporting flows using CLI, was one of the blog posts from Gary Trinder, and somebody else had it as well. Appy had it as well.
Yep.
And now Leon is actually showing how to make that happen with PnP PowerShell. Again, depending on your preference, which one tool you want to actually use. So really cool stuff as well. This is from William van Estrien, understanding why you at least must consider Go isolated. And this is really around the isolated web parts and the permission model and what works and what doesn't, and for educating people on that decision. Just out of curiosity, Elio, are you using isolated web parts in your implementation?
Nope, because most of our customizations are application customizers.
Yep.
We have web parts, of course, as well. But for instance, with Intranet, it's an application customizer. And there you cannot go isolated. But we use our own Azure AD applications so that we don't get affected by someone removing permissions from the default SharePoint extensibility.
Yep.
So,
but with the same approach, right? Because you are a part of the page. Like if you follow this thinking, another script on a page could lift on your permissions, right?
Yes.
In
theory,
but that would be the theory that somebody, tenant administrator, explicitly installs malicious code to the tenant, which would be
in this case, William also talks about the script editor web part that if that is available, that allows you to the users to put
that would
script.
require that the tenant administrator will install that script editor web part, knowingly that it will actually then enable that security breach. So again, whenever people are installing stuff to their tenant, people should know what they're installing, what it was. And that's the whole point of this blog post as well. So think about what you're doing. Now, Wartman had a really nice blog post last Monday, actually building Microsoft Teams bot for app stores, posting adaptive car carousel as welcome message. So kind of a how to do things and how to do messaging using a bot. So really cool stuff as well from Wartman, who actually works in the Valo as well.
Yep.
So.
Indeed, he built that idea management or ID product that we have. So all the stuff that he's doing here, we also use that inside ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Now from at work, I think it's Tony. Yeah, Tony, use multiple Node.js version for your computer and develop SPFX web parts. So really cool. Again, a recap. Well, not a recap. A story related on how do we use NVM and Node.js to differentiate and running multiple different versions of Node.js. Right now, SPFX is still using Node.js version 10, not for long, luckily, but still in 1.12, which is coming quite soon, we're going to support 10, 12, and 14. So currently, we are testing that, which is really cool. And then this one is really good from April. Markdown Explained under 10 minutes. So really, really good video from April related on what is Markdown and how that actually works and what you should be learning. So April has a really nice set of multiple different videos, what she's publishing in her own YouTube channel. So really cool stuff as well. And then we had Paulo, his weekly videos, and this time episode 138. We need to step up our game. We're in episode 111. So introducing PnP Framework 1.0, which was released last week. And there's going to be a blog post and all of that this week related on this as well. So what it is and how does it actually work. This basically is a NuGet package for C# development, which is replacing the classic CSUM extension, the PnP site core. And this one supports .NET Standard and .NET 5.0. So really cool stuff as well. And then two blog posts from one from Juan Carlos Gonzalez, post a SharePoint news or page in Yammer, just a new feature related on promoting your pages in the Yammer whenever you create those news articles or pages inside of the SharePoint. A really cool feature as well. So how it will be then exposed inside of the Yammer. There it is actually posted. And then another one was really, from Lorient Strand. Organizational ownership of Microsoft 365 is not so straightforward. So really related on who owns what where, and hopefully it doesn't look like that within your company when you're trying to figure out who owns and what.
Normally in Valo it is like that, but luckily there's COVID, so everything is remote.
Okay.
No.
But there's a lot of I think the number one conclusion out of this discussion is also that there's a lot of kind of consideration who owns the content, who drives, who pays, and all of that stuff in the M365 projects, which is super important to figure out as well. Cool. And that was all of the articles from this week. Not a massive amount of articles. Now, any last words, learnings, reminders? What's happening this week? Plans?
Elio?
I'm waiting for a PR merge from Waldek, so then I can work a little bit more on Doctor, which is one of the tools that we use internally at Valo for documentation. We were using a lot of documentation on MK Docs, and we saw yet again another platform, and we wanted to bring some alignment. So that's why I started building a proof of concept for making static pages inside SharePoint. It's not really static pages, but everything what our developers are writing is in Markdown, and we wanted to move that over to another system, and that system that we chose then is SharePoint, because we wanted to leverage our own product so that everyone is using the same kind of thing, which is also called
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and that's going pretty well, and there's a lot of traction as well for that tool, because there's a lot of interest from people that were just looking for the same thing, because where do you create that kind of documentation?
Yeah.
And also, especially if you already have intranet on 365, like you get for free search. You get all the things like comments and tagging, all of that for free. And that's powerful. Like if you build a site, I don't know, on Jekyll, Hugo, like there is no search because it's just HTML. So that's something you need to build by yourself, and it's not trivial. Whereas here you get it for free because you have it already, right? So it makes definitely perfect sense.
But not only that, there's so many different ways into where you create it. Like we're currently also in the phase of migrating from Azure DevOps to GitHub. And there's wiki pages in GitHub, there's wiki pages in Azure DevOps. And if I want to look for some information from that team, depending on where the team already is, they created things in GitHub or they created things in Azure DevOps. And it's like, where do I find it?
Or a OneNote in the team side or whatever. There's so many locations,
So if there's only one thing, it's easier. So that's also why the tool is there. So that's documentation is in the product or in the project of the product.
Makes perfect sense. And that's what that tool name was, just to recap on that one.
Doctor.
Doctor. So if you go to Google and you write doctor, this is coming up. No, just
I know actually.
let me just wait. I will do SEO. I will buy ads.
We'll add it on the podcast and the video notes. Absolutely. So all good. Waldek, what's up on your table? What's happening this week?
So on CLI front, we are working towards a release, which is v3.5. And typically the way we go about it is that the last week we don't include any new PRs to avoid last minute changes. However, I just heard that there is something on my plate that I should get included because otherwise I will keep somebody else from working. Meaning it's like, okay, so maybe that is the last thing that we can squeeze.
Your open source project isn't delivering, so just kidding.
So what is your open source project doing, Vesa?
He only does closed source.
Exactly. Or no source. Anyway, so we're going.
I'm not allowed to write any source anymore.
For a reason. So far, this has been working for us very well. And then job-related things. We're doing a number of different things where we plan what we want to do the coming months. We're looking into creating new content around graph development, Teams development, Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So you will be seeing and hearing from us more soon in the coming weeks and months. So overall, it's good time, busy time, beginning of the year, but almost already like first month is already gone because we're busy doing many things. So time passes when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
And we're impatiently awaiting SPFX v1.12.
Yeah, the V1.12 is certainly on our table as a high priority, and enabling meeting applications in Microsoft Teams, but with SPFX. There's multiple other things which is getting included there. We just need to make sure that it's 100% solid before we actually push it out, rather than having then regressions. And I think one of the things with Elio likes is the wide property, and then whenever there's a change within the wide of the web part, you will get an event, so you're able to then react on that change. So you don't have to kind of ping what is my byte right now, rather you'll get events related on that. So that's really cool as well. But all of that is taking a lot of time. There's going to be really cool announcements pretty soon related on the platform as well, which we can't talk about yet. We'll mention them also whenever the time is right. And then we're prepping. There's NDA, a lot of NDA dev kitchens coming up, all of that stuff. So with MVPs and partners. So not tomorrow, no. You will get an.
It depends. It depends when you're watching this. Maybe
that
it
is actually true.
It happened already.
It depends when you're watching or listening to podcast. So anyway, so a lot of excitement this spring. A lot of things happening. There's also Ignite and Build coming this spring as well. So the people are queuing up on all of the feature announcements related on those stuff, and there's a lot of stuff happening. It's really great. But I think that's it for this week. So thank you, Elio. Really good set of insights related on building product on top of Microsoft 365 and product and learnings related on that. And yes, we are working on improving the partner ecosystem experience. Of course, it is I think everybody knows in the customer or in the ecosystem that the partner extensibility in Microsoft 365 in general, in Teams or in SPFX or in SharePoint is a big priority for us, which is actually really good. So it's not just about the native out-of-the-box experiences, but then even the account teams are being measured on the partner extensibility, which is really good because then
Which
that gives
Absolutely.
focus on the feature crews on enabling those scenarios. So really, really cool stuff. And I have no idea why I'm rambling now on this journey. But anyway, so thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll come up with a new PnP Weekly within a week. So thanks, Elio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.